Hi, I'm Tracy Sowerby, and I'm the director of the Europaeum Scholars Programme. This video is intended for anybody who's thinking about applying for the programme to start in 2024 and to go through until 2025. So what is the Europaeum Scholars Programme? Well, it's a programme that draws on the resources of the 19 different universities that are part of the Europaeum. One of the things that makes us different is what we're trying to achieve with the programme. For one thing, we're trying to produce a new generation of leaders, thinkers, and researchers who have the abilities and skills to be able to shape the future of Europe for the better. And we place a strong emphasis on moral and ethical issues as part of the programme. We don't tell you what your ethical values should be, but we help you to think about what they might be and develop ethical resilience. Because what we're not trying to produce is a new generation of Boris Johnsons. We want leaders who are interested in genuinely making a difference to the world around them and who exhibit the best possible leadership qualities while doing so. Another thing that makes the programme different is that we are multicultural, multi-institutional and multidiscipline. Now, we are multi-country because, as you'll see, different modules take place in relation to different member universities right across Europe, and that varies from cohort to cohort. We're multi-institutional, not just because we draw on the resources of all of the universities in the European network when delivering the programme, but also because we have visits to different institutions that are involved in policy making as a fundamental part of the syllabus. And we're multidisciplinary because the scholars, as well as the people who deliver the programme, come from a whole range of different backgrounds. We've had scholars from almost every different humanities and social science subject imaginable have completed the programme to date. And we've had at least one scholar who isn't primarily rooted in humanities and social sciences. The programme's different because we are committed to engaging academic thinking with the most recent thinking on the cultural, political, and societal challenges that are facing Europe today. And that comes from NGOs as well as think tanks and policy institutions within Europe. The programme is delivered by people who are experts in their field, be that in media, business, NGOs, and top academics as well. Throughout, we focus on policy and we focus on problems. So, what is needed to solve the biggest issues that are facing us today? And throughout as well, we have a strong emphasis on teamwork and collaboration, not only in the group projects, which I'll talk about in a few moments, but also within various different training sessions and discussion sessions that run throughout the programme. And we give you plenty of opportunity to develop your leadership skills and leadership qualities throughout the programme, both in terms of professional training and in terms of giving you opportunities to lead small groups and to be led within them. So this is our timetable for 2024 to 2025. And I'd like to say that it's perhaps worth thinking about there being 3 different syllabuses that run throughout the 7 modules and conference that we're planning for this cycle. So on the one hand, there's a kind of intellectual syllabus. And you can see that we start with an introduction to the macro themes in Europe, to thinking about leadership and to thinking about societal problems from the bottom up in Oxford. We move on to visiting institutions and learning about them from the inside and thinking about the latest themes in European policy making in Brussels in the second module. And then we move to democracy in Europe and what better place to think about the threats, challenges, and opportunities for European democracy than Budapest. In the second year of the programme, we have 2 theme modules, one on technology and policy, thinking about how AI, blockchain, and so on are going to be impacting on society and how we should develop them, both thinking about the kind of challenges and threats that some of these new technologies might pose, but also thinking about how they can help us deliver a fairer Europe if used well. In Geneva, we will think about global governance and the transatlantic relationship, and what better to do that than the hub of so many different transnational organisations like the UN and WTO. And we'll end with a conference at which the scholars will present their projects to the policy world, and this will be organised around key themes in European policy making, and that will take place in the autumn of 2025. But there's also a skills syllabus that runs throughout all of this. That's both in terms of kind of developing ethical resilience and thinking about leadership, but it's also very practical. So at various points throughout the 2 years, scholars will have the opportunity to learn how to do policy analysis, how to write professional policy papers, how to engage with the media, and how to include gender and diversity within their framework for developing policy projects and recommendations. And there may well be other types of professional training that individual groups of scholars or the whole cohort request that we're able to provide for them as well. Then the third stream is the policy projects that I mentioned. So these are based around topics that the scholars devise themselves. Before the Brussels module, we ask each individual scholar to come up with their own proposal for what they think is a pressing topic. And we use that to do some academic matchmaking and put like-minded people together. Now, we don't have all the lawyers in the same group or all the people from any particular university in the same group. We do massage things a little bit to ensure that there's some diversity in background and disciplinarity within each of these 4 groups. But on the whole, the groups form quite organically. And then the 8 or 9 scholars who are put together talk about the different proposals and come up with a broad area that they want to look at. They then pursue that over the next 18 months. And at the end of the programme, they have a 2-page policy brief and a 5,000-word policy report. And you can find many examples of these from all of our previous scholars on our website. Previous projects have looked at key issues surrounding the energy transition, such as fair rights for workers in the automotive sector, or empowering renewable energy communities in rural Europe. They've looked at issues surrounding threats to democracy. These have ranged from how do we get more young voters to vote in the European elections, through to what can we do with the recently formed European citizens panels to make them as meaningful as possible and bring in as many diverse voices as they can. And we've also had projects which have looked at the need to transform policy to help the most vulnerable in society. And those have included a recent project on how to improve the living and working conditions of agricultural workers, and an older project which has become newly relevant again in the last few years on how to tackle energy poverty within Europe. So what does this scholarship actually include if you were to be selected? Well, I'll be frank, it doesn't include any money that will increase your bank balance. The €12,000 per annum goes entirely on the costs of the programme, which does mean that it should be cost neutral to you. So we cover all costs associated with running the programme, which include scholars' travel and subsistence, unless the scholars are engaged in transcontinental travel, or they've booked their tickets at the very last minute without any good reason and they're ridiculously expensive, in which case we refund a proportion of the costs involved. So who is eligible? Well, everybody who has 2 years left of study on their doctoral degree and is registered at a European university, unless, unfortunately, you're at KU Leuven, in which case you're not eligible to apply in this round. To put it in a short way, you should still be a doctoral candidate in October 2025 to be eligible. You should have a track record of academic excellence. We have set academic thresholds and you have to reach those in order to go forward for consideration. And you can find a table of those on our website. If you studied in a country that isn't covered in our table and you're not sure if you meet the threshold criteria, please email me with details and I will do my best to let you know. Scholars are usually based in humanities or social science subjects or doing a joint degree where there's some degree of humanities or social science input. If they're from outside humanities or social sciences, then they should have a very, very strong interest in how their research connects to policy making. And ideally that should be part of their research. Now, we're interested in people who show a very, very strong interest in Europe. And we mean Europe broadly defined. We don't just mean the EU. That could come quite naturally for some of you through the research that you're doing. We've certainly had plenty of scholars who work on current EU or nation state policy within Europe. But we've also had a significant number of scholars whose doctoral research is not directly related to current European affairs, but they've shown that they have a strong interest in European policy making through their extracurricular activities, and so they've become eligible for the programme that way. This isn't a programme for people who have no background knowledge at all on what's happening in Europe. And eligible candidates should also have a demonstrable interest in civil society and the public good. So you should apply if you think for yourself, but not just of yourself, and if you're interested in making Europe a better place. You should apply if you're interested in leadership, and if you're interested in connecting academia with policy, and believe, like we do, that the best policy making is informed by good quality research. Equally, don't apply if you're only interested in improving your doctorate. This programme may do that, but it's not its primary purpose. And don't apply if you're already easily distracted from your doctorate or overcommitted. Equally, if you're uninterested in policy or leadership, you will not find this programme very interesting. So do yourself a favour and don't apply. But if you are interested and you do want to apply, then we have the following documents that we would like you to submit. And there are further details and guidance on what these entail on our website and in our FAQs, and I would encourage you to download those. What's slightly unusual about the programme is that we ask for a personal reference and a leadership reference. The personal reference should talk about what sort of person you are and what your main concerns about the world around you are. And the leadership reference should talk about either what sort of leader you have been in a former role or what your leadership potential is. Let me end by saying that this is a programme that has had a very big impact on the majority of the people who've taken it. They've been exposed to various different views on Europe, both in terms of regional views, institutional views, and they've learnt a lot about how both Europe works and how our different universities within the network work as well. I would encourage you to learn more by looking at all of the materials that are on our website. And if you have any questions, do please register for one of our information sessions where you'll be able to ask me anything that you would like. Thank you very much for watching the video.